biggest question is always, how do I get a visa? What do I have to say? We have a consulate officer here who actually conducts the interviews and asks the questions, right? And Grace has also been a consulate officer in her last tour. So you will hear today firsthand from people who are doing the interviews, what you need to prepare, what you don't need to bring, what rumors you should not listen to, what you should pay attention to, okay? So the visa consular officer is going to be our next speaker, Mr. Jonathan. Okay, so please welcome Mr. Jonathan from US Embassy.
Things that I start with. And the first is that I want to say you are doing the most important thing you can do to get a visa right now. 95% of the process is the hard part, really. It's finding out where you want to go to school. It's understanding what you want to study. And it's understanding why you want to go to school in the United States. As Grace and others have said, it may not be the right one for you. Maybe there is a different place for you, and that's fine. The important thing for you right now is to be sure that you know why you want to go, because that's going to be an important part of the interview. And it's one of the requirements for the visa, that we understand why you want to be a student in the United States. So again, I want to tell you that this is really the best preparation you can do. Talking to Learning House or working with USEF is the best thing you can do to prepare for your visa interview. The easy part is the 5%. That's the visa interview. That's the easy part. But I want to tell you too that I understand where you have been. I studied abroad myself, both as an undergraduate and in graduate school. And I know it's not an easy decision. When I went abroad in college, I was having a great time. It's the first time I was really enjoying college, and I thought, is this right for me? Should I do this? Should I leave everything I know? And I'm glad I did. And if you do, I'm sure you will as well. But be sure that you go into this process understanding why you want to do it and what you want to do. We understand that life happens, and what you set out to do, as was the case with Grace, may not be what you will end up doing in the future. And that's fine. I was going to be the next dot-com billionaire Navy pilot, engineer, and that's not where I wound up. And that's fine. Things change. We get that. If we knew exactly what it was we wanted to do from the outset and absolutely did that, we would lose a lot of the fun in life. We don't expect you to know what you're going to do in 10 years or 15 years. But when you come for your visa interview, I do expect you to understand what you're going to do for the next year or so at least. You may not stick with that, and that's fine. We don't re-interview you 4 years later to see if you actually did what you told us you were going to do. But we do expect you to have an understanding of why you want to go to school and what you want to study. So again, I want to tell you, this is the most important thing you can do to prepare for your studies right now, what you're doing. Studying hard for those of you who are in school, learning about the process, learning how to apply for a visa, and listening to people like us, not rumors. We get so many rumors. I had a chance to talk with some of you before we came up here, and I know there are rumors out there about this or that thing. I would challenge you, whenever someone says, I heard this, I heard that, ask them where they heard that. And if it's from their friends, brothers, sisters, dad, I don't know that I would trust that. If they say, I came to a session like this and I heard two consular officers or a consular officer speak, then they probably know what they're talking about. I have a session on a topic on facts and myths we'll go into, but I want to start with that encouragement. Don't necessarily believe everything you hear. A lot of what we have to combat are rumors and myths. But anyway, let me move on. Again, the easy part of your process is the 5%. It's the visa. The most important step, obviously, for getting your visa is to apply to a school, to be accepted. To get your visa, you have to have the I-20. The I-20 is the document that's issued by a college or university that says you have been accepted to this school. It has some important information for us. It tells us the start of your program, what your program is, and the price, and roughly how you intend to pay for this. Now, there is another form that most of you will never see. It's called a DS 2019. That's for a different class of visa. Most of you will be getting the F1 visa, or getting an I-20. Be sure, once you've gotten this I-20, and you've done the 95%, and you know where you want to go, and you know why you want to go there, apply for your visa interview as early as you can. You can interview 120 days before the start of your program. Don't wait until the last minute. We see thousands of students every year, and what you don't want to have happen is to come in on a Thursday and tell me that you have a flight on Monday. For one thing, we don't issue visas that fast. It takes a little bit of time. But it's also a problem if you don't get accepted. Now you've got a flight to nowhere. So definitely apply early, and that gives you a chance to go through the process, make your plans. We have lots of applicants. Go ahead and do this as soon as you can. Now our waiting times, I'm happy to tell you, are low. So you should be able to get an interview spot relatively quickly, but please don't wait until the last minute. So there are 3 types of student visas. I know this is boring. As I say it, I know it's boring, but it's valuable for you to know. The type of visa most of you will be applying for is called the F1 visa. This is the visa for undergraduate, graduate, and full-time English language studies students. This is for colleges and universities. Most of you, 99% of you, will be getting this type of visa. There are 2 others, and I point them out mainly to caution you not to apply for the wrong type. One is the J1 exchange visa. That's for short-term types of study. It's not for full-time degree-seeking students. Typically, we see that graduate, postgraduate education. Another is the M1. That's for vocational training. If you want to become a pilot, for example, and you travel to the United States to go to pilot training, you would most likely get this kind of visa. But if you want to go to college in the United States and get a bachelor's, or you want to go to graduate school and get a master's or PhD, the F1 visa is the one that you want to get. So there are a few steps to go through when you're applying for your visa that are critical, because without them, you won't be able to get the visa. The first is you obviously have to have a passport. We have to put the visa somewhere, and as fun as it would be to stick it to your forehead, that doesn't usually work out well. So if you're going to go to the United States, be sure that you have a visa, a passport. How many of you have a passport now? Okay, a healthy number of you. Well, I would encourage you, when you are beginning the process of thinking about where I want to go to school, go ahead and apply for that passport. Like governments everywhere, it takes time to get your passport. If you already have a passport, make sure that it is valid for at least 6 months before you arrive in the United States. And that's the absolute bare minimum. I would discourage you from coming to the United States or applying for a visa with a passport that's about to expire. It's just going to cause trouble. So if you already do have a passport, be sure to take a look at it, see what that expiration date is. You also have to make sure that it's got 1 blank page. Now, if you're a world traveler and you've filled up every page in your passport, fantastic. I have yet to do that. If you have, though, be sure before you come for your visa interview that you've got that blank page, because again, we can't stick the visa to your forehead. It's going to go onto a blank page. One of the other things you have to have is a photo, and it needs to be a certain type and requirement. Now, the basics are here. You can find this information online too. So if you want to copy this down, that's great. If you want to take a picture of it, but you can find this information online. It has to be a professional type, though, with a white background. And one of the new requirements is you can't wear glasses. So I always like to look at it and see who's got glasses when I say this. Not as many of you as some of the presentations I've given. I know they're cool. I love my glasses too. But don't wear them in the photo. That's a legal requirement for us by regulation. And if you show up for your interview with a picture of you with glasses on, we'll have to turn you away. So be sure that you get the appropriate kind of photo. So what do governments everywhere do best? I always think everybody's afraid to answer this question. We make forms and applications, of course. You have to fill out forms. One of the steps in this process is filling out the interview application, the DS-160. You can do all of this online. That's the good news. But the first step is to apply for your interview. You have to pay a fee. You can do that online again. Actually, I take that back. You have to pay your visa fee to the Nepal Investment Bank. You have to do that in person. But you can apply and you can fill out the DS-160 online. The other thing you have to do is pay something called the SEVIS fee. SEVIS is a system that's not run by the State Department. It's called the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. And it's a database that allows us to keep track of all students in the United States. This is run by DHS and the Department of Education. It's not run by the State Department, but you can apply for SEVIS and pay your fee online again. And then again, you schedule your interview. You can do that online as well. So, you've got your photo with no glasses on, you have your passport with one empty page at least, and it's valid for at least 6 months after you arrive. What do you need to bring to the interview? Well, you need your passport, you need the photo, you need the original I-120. Now again, if you are a J, be sure to bring the DS-219. Most of you are going to have your I-20. You have to have these items for your interview. We also have to have a confirmation that you have paid the fees. The last two items on here are not strictly true. It's not a legal requirement. It's not bad to have, but we don't absolutely require that. And that is your school transcripts and any standardized tests. The standardized tests are not a requirement of the US government. They're a requirement for the school or college that you're going to go to. So if you had to take your ACT or GRE, or you're taking the IELTS or TOEFL, we don't have to see that. It doesn't hurt. We may not ask for that though, but you can bring it. Now, I do personally like to see your school transcripts because I like to know something about you and what you've studied. If you are an art major, or you invested most of your time in undergraduate in undergraduate, if you're applying for graduate, or in high school studying art, now you want to study physics, it's good for me to see your transcript to understand your background and preparation for that. But it's not an absolute requirement. It helps us understand more about you. So here is the most important part of my discussion today, and the part that I want you to take away and remember carefully. There are 3 requirements for getting a student visa. The first is that you will use the visa only to study in the United States. And what this means is you'll often hear us say that you are a legitimate student. That the purpose of your travel to the United States is to be a student, not to work, not to go get married, not to become the next Hollywood star. That you are there to be a student. And a lot of our interview is going to involve questions about this, about why you want to study in that school, and what the purpose for your study is, and how you chose that school. It shows us that you are a legitimate student, and that that is the purpose for your travel. The second requirement is that you, I'm going to skip order here, that you intend to depart the United States after the completion of your studies. There's a song that says, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That's US law in a nutshell. We hope you would come back to Nepal, but you don't have to come back to Nepal. What you have to do is demonstrate to us that you plan to leave the United States. And again, what that speaks to is the question of your intent. Are you a student, or do you want to move to the United States forever? Now again, we understand life happens. You're going to change your mind about things. You may change your major. You may set out to be in IT and suddenly discover that you love literature. Or maybe you think you love literature or animation, as Grace did, and you discover that you love political science. That's fine. We don't expect you at the time of your interview to be able to explain what you're going to do 10 years down the road, at least in the sense that you're going to guarantee it. We know things change. We know that you may want to do some practical training after your degree. You may even be interested in H-1B. That's fine. But we do have to understand that you intend to leave the United States. And last, even though it's not in the same order here, you have to show us that you can pay for your degree and that you can pay for your education. Now, everyone, especially Americans, understand education in the United States is extremely expensive. Even the lowest priced community colleges can be $10,000, $15,000 a year. Plus, you have to pay for your living expenses. While you're there, you have books you may have to buy, you have to be able to feed yourself, you have to have a roof over your head. You don't have to come to the visa window for your interview with me with a block of gold and say, here is everything I need for the next 4 years. But you do have to show me that you have a plan. You have to show me that you can pay for the first year and that you have a reasonable plan to pay for the following 2, 3 years, whatever it might be, depending on your program. Again, that is a real challenge. That's a challenge for everyone. That's a challenge for Americans. $12,000 tuition is cheap. Plenty of schools, the college I went to is $40,000 a year now just for tuition. That's an extraordinary amount of money. So if you have satisfied us in the interview that you are a legitimate student and that you have a plan for your studies and you understand what you're going to do afterwards and leave the United States, we will then ask you about your finances. You have to be able to explain to us how you're going to pay for it. If your family earns $5,000 a year and your program is $40,000, we're going to have to understand where that's going to come from. Now, we understand people have investments, they have property that they can sell. That's fine. We don't typically look at documents. So if you come with your bank statements, that may or may not be something that we're going to look at. What I want to hear from you is, how is this going to work? Can you explain this to me, how you're going to pay for this program? That's what you'll need to be able to do. So before we get to the facts and myths, I want to ask my colleague to join me, and we're going to do 2 interviews. And after these 2 interviews, I'm going to ask you what you think the difference is between these 2 interviews. Because you have to understand, has anybody been to the US Embassy? Anybody been for a visa interview? We have 1 or 2, okay. You're going to come in, you're going to wait for a while, you're going to wait in line, you're going to go in a snake line, and then you're going to get one of a number of windows. And like it or not, we are on the other side of that window behind inch-thick bulletproof glass. And you've got a very brief time to explain to us how you meet these 3 criteria. Now, I don't coach people on what to do, but I can tell you with this example, the difference between a good interview and a bad interview. And so once we run through this with my colleague, then I want to ask a few questions about what you thought the differences were. So if Grace could join me, we will do a couple of mock interviews.
Where should I stand?
No? No? Okay. It's on? Okay. So Grace has been in her line, she's tired, she's bored now, she's nervous, and she's looking at me through inch-thick bulletproof glass that a lot of times has a really heavy glare on it. So if you ever get me and I'm looking at your passport, so is this the same person? It's because I can't always see you very well behind you. So imagine that this great window is here. Okay, so this is scenario 1. Grace is the applicant, I'm the officer. Good morning. Could I please have your passport, I-20, and transcript, please?
All right, here you are.
Here you go. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so it says on your I-20 you want to study computer science, right? Why are you interested in that?
Well, I've liked computers since I was really young.
Okay. What do you want to learn about in the computer field?
Oh, programming?
What's specifically about programming?
I just think that programming is the future, and I really like computers.
Okay. So what do you want to do after you've studied in the United States for 4 years and learned programming?
I want to be a programmer.
Okay. Thank you for your time today. All right, so scenario 2. Bulletproof glass. I'm squinting at you because I can't see you from the glare. All right. Good morning. Can I have your passport, I-20, and transcript, please? Yep. Okay, so thank you. It looks like you want to study biology. What interests you in biology?
Well, I'm really interested in studying waterborne diseases, and I think a biology degree will really help me do that.
Okay, so what are you interested in, waterborne diseases and biology?
So the town that I'm in, there's a existing waterborne diseases problem. And when I was younger, both my brother and I became ill because of waterborne diseases. As a result of that, I'm really interested in understanding how to fix this problem, and I think a biology degree will really help me do that.
Wow, okay. So you've really given this a lot of thought. What do you want to do after you complete your degree?
Well, my father actually works for an NGO in the town that I live in, and my interest is either in becoming a doctor or working in NGOs that deal with waterborne diseases and treatments for that. So I already know that after I complete my degree, my father's organization is planning to give me an internship, so I will have my career start there.
Wow, okay. So what's your plan then after you finish?
Well, I've spent a lot of time researching all the universities that specialize in this, and I've selected the school that you see on your sheet for that reason.
And how did you find this school?
I did a lot of research. I went to USEF, let's say we're in Kathmandu. I went to USEF, or here in Pokhara, I went to Learning House, and I spoke to the people there who showed me different programs that were related to this. And I really did my research and understood what I could get out of this school's specific program.
Wow, that's great. Okay, thank you, Grace. So, what do you think the differences between those two interviews were? What did you think about interview number 1? What was wrong with that interview? It's very short, right? Did the person sound like they really knew what they wanted to do? Had they given this a lot of thought? No. Okay, what about number 2? What was the real difference with interview number 2 from number 1? This person had obviously really thought about this, right? They understood why they wanted to study biology. They understood why they wanted to go to the school they chose, and they had a plan afterwards. That's what we want to hear. That is the interview that would get you a visa, hopefully. And again, I don't, whether play acting Grace stays in biology and becomes a world-class researcher and returns and solves her village's water problems or not, that doesn't matter. We know things will change. But what is important to us is that you understand why you want to do what you do. And again, when I started and said, you're doing the 95%, you're doing the most important thing you can do right now, it's because of that. Because we want to hear that you have put a lot of thought into the program, into the school, and about what you want to do. And we understand that that may change with the future, but I would hope that you would know that going in. And that's the kind of thing that makes for a good visa interview. So now I want to move on to facts and myths. Who has heard myths? Well, who's heard anything about the visa interview process? I know some of you have. I talked to some of you. Any myths? All right. Oh, there we go. One brain, okay. All right. We got one guy who's heard of myth. Okay, that's good. Well, let me go through about 6 or 8 of them here, because these are the ones that are most common. I do a weekly visa chat on the Embassy's Facebook page, and I hope that you will join us for the next one. That's usually towards the end of the month. I continually hear a lot of these myths, and so that's why, even though it takes some time, I like to go through this here. So myth number 1, who has heard the legend about window number 9? Yes, there's always one, yes. It doesn't matter what window you go to. Now, I have to confess, I like this myth because I am often at window number 9. But we're not always at the same windows. And the point is, it doesn't matter. A colleague of mine got up and gave the speech, and he said, I'm not going to introduce myself. It doesn't matter what my name is, because I'm just a consular officer and I adjudicate according to law. Well, I hope I told you my name. I don't agree with that. I'm Jonathan Worth. That's fine. But the reality is, whether I do your interview or my colleagues do your interview, we're using those same 3 criteria. And that is how we're going to judge your application. It doesn't matter which window you go to. It doesn't matter which person you talk to. So if you hear the window number 9, please dismiss it. I swear to you, I have had people at my window creeping away, trying to get to another window. And I think it's just because of that window number 9. It's funny, but I'm kind of like, hey, where are you going? Please be sure you understand, it's about the law. It's about those 3 criteria. It's not the window number. All right, so myth number 2. I need to use an education consultancy to get into a good university and get a visa. Who's heard this one? Does anyone believe this? And I'm so glad there's some parents here in the audience too, because we want to talk to you and convince you as well that this is not the right approach. We don't ask people whether they've gone to a visa consultant. I don't really care whether you've gone to a visa consultant or not. But what we do know is that visa consultants are not in this for you. They're in this for them. They're here to make money from fees they get from you and from the universities that they recommend you to. You don't need a visa consultant. You need to listen to these presentations. You need to go to Learning House. You need to talk to USEF. You need to go on our website. You need to do your research about the school you want to go to. Again, we don't ask you whether you have gone to a visa consultant, but I'll tell you, and I've talked to a few of you today, and I've said this, if I hear the same speech, sometimes word for word, 4 times in a row, unless you guys met up out on the street and practiced this together, my guess is that's probably a speech that was given to you by a consultant. And the first thing we're going to do, if you're on a roll with a memorized speech, is stop you and ask you questions about this program in this school and why you want to do it. So please, if you take anything away today, remember that visa consultancies are not necessary. They are not needed for success. And I strongly suspect the best students we see have never talked to a visa consultant, and you don't need to either. So myth number 3, and I know I've talked to a few of you about this as well. If my English is poor, I should memorize a speech before the interview. Wrong. Please don't do this. Whether you've done it yourself because you're nervous or whether someone is giving you the speech, don't memorize your speech. The first thing we're going to do is try to knock you off of that speech. Because usually the speech doesn't tell us anything about you or about why you're interested in this school. And way too often, the speech sounds like you memorized the homepage for the university's website. I don't want to hear about their student-faculty ratio. I don't really care. I don't care if the school is accredited, but a lot of people will give me this rehearsed speech. I know you're nervous. I know English is your second language, and for many of you it's a challenge. I spent 6 months in Nepali training. I can't speak Nepali. I get it. It's difficult. If you want to speak in Nepali to us at the interview, you can do that as well. But please don't rehearse a speech, because again, the first thing we're going to do is stop you and ask you other questions. Because we want to get at those real questions about why you want to go to the United States and why you want to study what you're studying. Not hear about student-faculty ratios or how beautiful the campus is or whatever else was on the website. So myth number 4, and this sort of goes back to the window number 9 myth, that getting a visa depends on the consular officer's mood. Ooh, no, it doesn't. We all have good days and bad days. Some of you are having a good day right now, some of you are having a bad day. It doesn't affect how I adjudicate your visa. When you come up to me, I'm looking for those 3 criteria. It doesn't matter whether I've had my coffee or I got enough sleep or my daughter waked up at 3 a.m. and climbed in bed with us and woke me up, which she does every single night. That's not going to affect our interview. So please don't think that it depends on our mood. Similarly, Myth number 5, if I'm nice to the consular officer, I'll get a visa. Wrong. Now, please be nice. Look, nobody likes mean people, okay? We have a difficult job. We talk to hundreds of people every day. It's not an easy thing to do. We're not going to judge you based on whether you're nice or not. I've given visas to people that were not nice. And I have unfortunately rejected people who were extremely nice, but simply didn't qualify. How you act doesn't matter. It can't hurt. Be nice. But that isn't going to affect the outcome of the interview. Myth number 6, if I have family in the US, I won't get a student visa. Has anybody heard of this one? I'm sure a lot of you have. Yep, now I'm seeing hands go up, okay. This is wrong as well. Now, if you do have family in the United States, it's good to tell us that, and it's good to explain what they're doing there and how it relates to you and being a student. It may be that it's a wonderful thing, that you want to go to a university and your uncle or your brother live there, and you're going to live with them and save considerable money. That's a great story. What we want to understand, though, is that this is not simply a way for you to join your family in the United States. So while this is a myth, you do need to explain to us that you're not simply seeking a way to join your family in the United States. But just because you have family in the United States does not mean you won't get a visa. I have given visas to people who have family in the United States. Students who have brothers and sisters or cousins in the United States, that's fine. But again, just remember that we're going to want to know what your plan is. It goes back to those 3 criteria. So myth number 7, the embassy refuses us so we can make more money. Anybody heard this one? Anyone? Yes. Yeah, now everybody's getting excited. Yeah, I heard that one. We don't make money off these interviews. The fees we charge you are literally to pay for our time, to pay for the computer systems, to pay for the guards that stand there in the line protecting you while you're waiting. We don't make any money off of this. So if you come back a second time or a third time or a fourth time, we don't make a profit off of that. Every time requires our time, and it takes your time. We're not making money off of that. So please don't think that this is some game where we're going, whoa, boy, the budget's low this month. Let's refuse 5 more students. It doesn't work that way. So myth number 8, and this is a very, very important one. If I pick a certain major or school, I will get a visa. Wrong. We don't care what you're going to do. In the sense of whether you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a writer, or you want to be an animator, or you want to be a political science junkie like Grace and I are. We just want to understand what you want to do and why you want to do it. We're not thinking about the school, we're not thinking about the program. It does concern me whenever I see endless reams of the same people coming in with a certain major, because I'm afraid they have been told this is the way to get a degree, to get a visa. I'm going to study IT, or I'm going to study business, or I'm going to study biology. We don't care, and one major or one topic does not change those 3 criteria. We want to understand why that interests you. If every one of you in this room want to study IT, that's great. I don't care. If you want to study medieval literature, that's fine too. We're going to want to understand why. But ultimately, it doesn't matter to us which school you go to or which degree you seek. It's about meeting those 3 criteria. And I do want to emphasize that point as well too. We don't adjudicate the school. It's not about whether you're going to Harvard or Princeton or Tacoma Community College. Again, I don't care. I want to know why you want to go there. I want to know why this is a part of your plan. But it doesn't matter what the school is. We frequently meet with student representatives from universities and assure them of this, that it's not about the school. We are not going, oh, somebody's going to University X, I'm not letting them in. That is not how it works at all. And I emphasize this especially because of the myths with consultants that you should go to this school. Everybody who goes to this school gets in. That's not true. You can be the best student in the world and have no idea why you want to go there, and you can't convince me that you're a legitimate student, and you won't get a visa. It really is not about the school. It's not about the major. It's about whether you meet those 3 criteria. So what can happen here? We've gone through the requirements, we've gone through the website and all the fees you have to pay and the myths in the interview. What are the 3 things that can happen? Well, the first thing is that you get your visa. Congratulations, welcome to the United States. I hope you enjoy your time there. If you do, then be sure that you have to pay a reciprocity fee. There's a $200 fee that you have to pay to get your visa. Be sure that you take your I-20 with you when you go to the United States. And be sure you take your passport or you're not going to get in the country or get on the airplane probably. The second possibility is that you're rejected. I know this is what no one wants to hear, but it does happen. Not everybody's able to explain what they want to do. Not everybody is actually qualified. It's okay if you're rejected. If you are, we will always tell you in person. You know, this is specific to Nepal, but we always provide you with the rejection in writing. And the rejection in writing explains the US legal requirements. It has the 3 requirements that we're adjudicating based on. And we will circle 1 or 2, very rarely 3, of those 3 legal requirements and tell you this is why you have not met the legal requirements. And I want to emphasize this because if you are rejected, you can certainly reapply. You can reapply. I've seen people reapply 2 days later. But if you do, be sure that you can address those concerns on that paper. The 1 or the 2 or the 3 reasons you didn't qualify. Because if you come back to me a day later and you're just rolling the dice, let's see if I get the guy not at window 9. All right, Jonathan didn't like me. I'm going to go to Windows 7. This guy will accept me. We all have the same notes. We all have the same computer system. We all adjudicate using the same 3 legal criteria. And you need to be able to tell us what has changed in your situation. Now, maybe something fundamental did change in the last day. I doubt it. But you have to be able to explain what has changed and how, if I didn't feel like you could pay for your education, if you reapply, you've got to be able to explain to me now how you can pay. And something that's different from your first application. What frustrates me, not because I'm doing the interview, but because I know it's frustrating for applicants, is I say, well, what has changed from last week or last month or last fall? And they say, oh, well, I'm going to a different university. Okay. Last week, you really wanted to go to University A, and this week, you really want to go to University B. Okay. How has that made you more qualified? Please remember that if you want to reapply, and you certainly can, be able to address those issues. Be sure that you can tell me what has changed. Changing your major or changing the school that you're going to go to is not what we're looking for. So if this school is the absolute right school for you, come back again with the same school and tell me why we were wrong the first time and address the 1 or 2 concerns that we've circled on that paper. When someone simply changes their I-20, that isn't what we're looking for. That's not one of the legal requirements. You have to have an I-20, but I don't care which I-20 it is. You've got to convince me you've met the 3 legal requirements. So now there is a third possibility, and it's not on the slide, but it's unusual. You might be refused and told we need more information before we can process your application. This is unusual. It happens occasionally. We will always tell you what it is we need, and you submit that information through the bank. Generally, in my experience, everyone is either an issue or a rejection. But occasionally we do see these cases. So if for some reason you have failed to bring something, let's say you got through the line and your picture, you got glasses on. Your I-20, get ready for your trip, and congratulations. I hope this presentation has been helpful. I know it's warm in here. I know this can be kind of tedious, but this is the important stuff that you need to know to be sure that you can qualify. So I want to take some time. We have an open Q&A time. Do we still have some time for some questions?
Why don't you do the questions in the open Q&A?
Okay, all right. So we won't do the Q&A here. We'll do it later. So if you have any questions, please feel free to save them for later on. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope this was useful for you today. And then 5-minute break, freshen up, do a little stretch, take
think about whatever question you want to ask, and then we'll meet back here. There will also be time for questions. Again, just as a reminder, there's open Q&A the last session of today. So if you think of a question and you think, oh, I forgot to ask, or I didn't feel comfortable, later. There's also a box on a table outside. So if you're not the kind of person that wants to stand up with a mic, you can write your question and put it in the box, and we're going to be reading those. So at some point today, you don't have to write your name on it either, it can be anonymous, so no one will know who asked. I have been rejected twice for a visa interview, and the reason they gave me is I have no intention to study in USA, I won't return back to my country, so give me some advice that this time I won't be rejected in my visa interview.
As I mentioned in my presentation, whenever we reject you, we provide you with a notice. Explain to us law, circle the area. So I can't coach you on an individual case, I don't speak to individual cases. But what you have to do is convince us of how you overcome that. So think about the interview that you had, questions that you were asked, and perhaps what it is about your interview or your situation that might lead us to believe that you won't be the status in which you're not a student. Maybe you were not able to answer questions about the school that you wanted to apply to. Or maybe you were not able to talk about what it was you wanted to do. And thus, there was concern about whether you would actually just go to the United States and stay. So I can't coach you, but I can encourage you to think about those issues and try to explain how you overcome those doubts. Because the way the law is written is that you have to convince us, or else, if we had a doubt, that we reject the application. Now, that doesn't mean that simply because we have 1 ounce of doubt that we will reject you, but if you cannot give us a convincing explanation of what you're going to do to overcome those issues, then we may well reject the application. So I would encourage you to do a couple of things. If you have already applied a couple of times, take a step back. Give it a little bit of time. Think about whatever the issue might be with you and how you can improve that. So let's say, for example, if one of the concerned circles was, I'm not going to leave the United States. Okay. If I'm not going to leave the United States, then perhaps you need to consider what your future plan is and be able to explain that. I want to study biology and return to the fall. Now, I can't give you a specific answer. There is not one single right answer, but you have to be able to address those issues. So think about your situation, think about your preparation, think about the school and the program you've chosen, and I would give it a little bit of time. I think any of us in any of these situations, anything we're doing, you keep going back and back and back as quickly as you can, you're more likely simply to get more frustrated than you are to make progress. So take some time, think about your situation, be sure that you can address it.
Thank you, Jonathan. The next, one more question.
Sorry, before you say that, I just wanted to add that if you ask a question, my wonderful education assistant Reka, who's standing right there in the middle, she has goodies for anyone who's brave enough to raise their hand and ask a question. So please think about what you would like to ask anyone on this panel.
So the question here is from Roshan. Is it possible to get full scholarship to study in America if you have a low economic background?
Sorry, I'll answer that question first. Alright, so again, as we have discussed, if you've been to visit our booth, we like, as Jonathan and I have both expressed, we really think it's important for you to research your education before you try to go to the United States. And yes, a big part of that is scholarship programs. So in addition to thinking about what you want to study, what you hope to accomplish by pursuing that course of study, it is also very important for you to do the research to see what financial help you are able to get, what you are qualified for. So every university will have scholarship programs, and there are also scholarship programs that are not targeted via university, but through the US government, through other organizations. So it's up to you to go online and to do the research, to explore what opportunities there are, especially for foreign students who are planning to come to the US to study. So yes, there are absolutely financial scholarships that are available, but it's up to you to find them.
I just wanted to add as well, I used to work for a large state university and spent a lot of time around educational situations. My father was in higher education. A lot of universities are very, very interested in people from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And a lot of scholarships are targeted at that. So certainly, if I understood the question correctly, getting a scholarship of my low socioeconomic background, low income, a lot of them are geared towards that. So yes, I think you've got a very good chance. There are scholarships that are academic focused, so they involve your academic preparation, your knowledge level, but I think you have a very good chance. But to echo what Ray said, you really have to do your research. You can't just put in one application and expect it to be accepted. But there are many universities out there, particularly state universities, that are very interested in having a very diverse student population. Diversity is not always skin color or ethnic background, it's also socioeconomic diversity. So I think I would highly encourage you to pursue scholarships.